I am going to tell you something about my daughter that I have spent 8 months trying to find the courage to say out loud. Not because I am afraid you won't believe me. I stopped caring about that a long time ago. I am a pediatric emergency nurse. I have spent 14 years in rooms where children die and rooms where children don't. I know what clinical death looks like from every angle, from the monitor, from the chart, from the hands doing compressions. I have been the person in the room who says the time. I have been the person who writes it down. I know what dead means. I know what it means when the machines go quiet and the team steps back and the room changes. I know. That is the first thing I need you to understand about me before I tell you anything else. My name is Carol Ann Mercer. I live outside of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I have been a registered nurse in pediatric emergency care since I was 27 years old. I run every morning before my shift. I trust data. I trust protocol. I trust what I can observe and verify. I do not trust things I cannot explain. That is exactly why it took me 8 months to say any of this. On February 11th, 2024, my daughter Lily died in our hallway at 4:47 in the afternoon. She was 9 years old. She had been reading a book about horses. The book was still open on the floor beside her when I found her. She was face down. I rolled her over. No pulse. Not weak, not thready, absent. I have felt hundreds of children's pulses. I knew immediately. I called 911. I started compressions, and for 14 minutes, while I worked on my daughter's chest on the linoleum floor of our hallway, while the dispatcher kept talking to me and I kept answering on autopilot the way you do when training takes over, because if you stop and let yourself feel it, you will not be able to do the next thing. For 14 minutes, my daughter was not with me. She was somewhere else. The paramedics arrived. They took over. I stepped back against the wall because there was no room and because my legs weren't working properly anymore. I watched them work. I have seen this from the other side my entire career. I have never seen it from this side. It is a different thing entirely. I watched them attach the leads. I watched the monitor. I watched the line that means nothing is happening. I watched it for what felt like a week and was probably 3 minutes. And then there was a rhythm, irregular, then steadying, then a rhythm. She was transported to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital in Nashville. I rode in the ambulance. I held her hand. Her face was the calmest face I have ever seen on a child who has just been resuscitated. Not the slack calm of unconsciousness, something else, something placed, like she was holding something carefully inside herself and didn't want to spill it. The cardiology team at Vanderbilt identified Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, a congenital arrhythmia. Present from birth, undetected, asymptomatic until it wasn't. The attending cardiologist told me Lily's neurological profile was outside normal expectations for a 14-minute arrest. No deficit, no impairment. She looked at me when she said it in a way that communicated she had no explanation for that, and she was not going to pretend otherwise. 3 days later, Lily was drawing. Not horses, not the things 9-year-olds draw. She was drawing something I did not recognize, shapes and arrangements that looked like nothing she'd ever produced before. And she was doing it with a focus I had not seen in her. Still, quiet, like she was trying to get something right that she'd seen clearly and needed to reproduce before it faded. I sat down next to her. I said, "Lily, what are you drawing?" She looked up and she said, "Where I went, Mama. I'm trying to remember it right." I want you to understand something. I have sat with children after near-miss events my entire career. I know what psychological recovery looks like. I know what confabulation looks like, the brain filling in gaps, constructing narrative around an experience it cannot organize. I have seen both. I know how they behave. I know how they sound. What I heard from my daughter was not either of those things. And that is what I came back to tell you. Because Lily asked me to. Let me tell you what she saw. Because the first thing she told me, quietly, 3 days after she came home, while she was drawing and I was sitting next to her, changed everything I thought I understood about what was happening to this country, and specifically to the families inside it. Lily described leaving her body the way you describe walking out of one room and into another. No drama, no tunnel, or rather, there was a transition, but she said the tunnel was not the point. It was just the between part, and what was on the other side of it was what mattered. She said she was placed. That was her word. Not that she arrived, not that she traveled. She was placed. And the first thing she noticed was that time was gone. I need you to sit with that for a moment, because Lily did not describe timelessness the way you read about it in books or see depicted in movies. She was 9 years old. She did not have the vocabulary for timelessness. What she said was this: "It felt like time was a coat I took off, Mama, and I didn't know how heavy it was until it wasn't on anymore." A 9-year-old who had been reading horse books 45 minutes earlier. That image did not come from her. She said the place felt like it had been waiting, not for her specifically, though she came to understand that she was expected, but the way a place that is always present feels like it has been waiting when you finally arrive in it. She said she knew, with a kind of knowing that wasn't a thought, that this was not a new place. It was the oldest place. She had just never been able to see it from inside her body, and she was not afraid. This is the detail that stayed with me most in those early days, because Lily is a child who is afraid of things. Thunderstorms, large dogs, the dark at the bottom of our basement stairs. She is 9 years old, and she has ordinary 9-year-old fears. She came back from 14 minutes of clinical death without a single one of them. I asked her if she was scared when she first arrived. She thought about it. The way she thinks about things. She scrunches her nose. She said, "No, it was more like the opposite of scared. Like the thing that scares you is the place where scared doesn't exist." I wrote that down the moment she said it. I have it in my handwriting in a notebook in my kitchen. I am not reconstructing this for effect. She said she spent what felt like a long time in that place before anything else happened. She said she watched. She said everything in that place was communicating, not in language, but the way you understand something you've always known. The light was not just light. The ground, if it was ground, she said she wasn't sure, was not just ground. Everything was saying something, and she could hear all of it without it being loud. And then he was there. Lily did not say she saw a figure walking toward her. She said she became aware that she was known. Those are her words. Aware that she was known. And the source of that knowing was present in the place with her. And when she turned, if turning is the right word, he was there. She said he was not a person who knew things. She said he was knowing itself. The way fire is not warm, fire is heat. He was not someone with knowledge. He was knowledge. He was understanding. He was made of it. She could not fully look at him the way you look at a face. She said every time she tried to hold his appearance in her vision, it resolved beyond what she could contain. But she knew he was looking at her. She knew he had been looking at her for a long time. And what that felt like, she told me, was not surveillance. She held up her arms when she said it, the way children do when they want to be picked up. She said, "Like that, Mama, except there was no moving. I was just held." And then he spoke. I have told this part to 3 people in 8 months. My husband, David, my pastor, and now you. Because this is the part Lily was specific about. This is the part she has never changed, not once across more than a year of telling it. And if you have ever tried to get a 10-year-old to tell the same story the same way twice, you understand what that consistency costs. He said to her, "I know you're small. That's why I'm sending this through you." People listen to small things. A 9-year-old girl. He chose a 9-year-old girl. And he told her why. Because the warning he gave her was for people who would not hear it from anyone else. This is where I need you to slow down with me. Because what Lily was shown next is not what you are expecting. It is not war. It is not a disaster in the way you picture disasters. What she was shown was something quieter and more specific, and I have thought about this for more than a year. More dangerous precisely because of how ordinary it looks. Lily told me she was shown American homes, not abstract America, not a news broadcast, not symbols, Specific domestic scenes: a dinner table with everyone looking at a screen, a living room where the television was on and no one was watching it and no one was talking, a grandfather in a kitchen eating alone, children in their rooms with the door closed, parents in the same house who had not spoken a real sentence to each other in days. She said the homes looked, and this is her word, the word she used twice, busy. She said they looked busy and they looked lonely at the same time. And Jesus stood beside her while she watched it. She said he did not narrate, he did not explain. He let her see. And what she understood, standing in that place where understanding arrives without being assembled, was that what she was watching was a family that had already started to die before anything external had happened to it. The structure was there, the house was there, the people were there, but the connection was gone. And what was coming in 2026 was going to put weight on that structure, real weight, the kind of weight that reveals whether the thing underneath it is solid. I want to be careful here because I am not a prophet and Lily is not a prophet, and neither of us is claiming to know exactly what form that weight will take. What Lily told me was that she was not shown a specific event. She was shown a condition. The condition was disconnection. And the disconnection she was shown was already present. 2026 was not when it would begin. 2026 was when it would be tested. She said what she saw looked like pressure, like something pressing down on the country from the outside. She described something like scarcity, like things becoming harder to get, like the ease of ordinary life becoming less easy. And the families who were already not talking to each other, not eating together, not reaching for each other, were the families who would break under that pressure. And the families who were connected, really connected, she was specific, not just in the same house, those families would hold, she told me. He said the ones who stay together in 2026, really together, not just in the same house, they'll be all right. He was serious, Mama. He wasn't scary, but he was serious. I need you to hear what she is not saying. She is not saying get your supplies in order. She is not saying move to a bunker. She is not saying get out of the cities. That may or may not be wisdom. I am not here to tell you what to do with your money or your geography. What my daughter was shown, specifically, clearly, in 14 minutes on the other side of clinical death, was a warning about relationship, about whether you have turned toward the people in your life or away from them. Because what is coming will not care how well stocked your pantry is if you are carrying it alone. There is more, and this part is the part that broke me open. Lily described a second thing she was shown, a second image that came after the first. She called it a door. She was shown families who were not together, not families who had drifted, families who had broken, parents and adult children who had stopped speaking, siblings who hadn't talked in years, couples who had separated and let the separation calcify into something permanent. She was shown those families, and she was shown that there was a door between where they were and where they could be, and the door was still open. She said he showed her the door the way you show someone something you want them to notice before it's too late. She said the door was open, and she said he told her it would not stay open. I have a sister. Her name is Patricia. We have not spoken in 4 years. We had a disagreement about something that felt enormous at the time and has felt smaller every year since then, and still I have not called her. I keep telling myself I will when things settle down. I keep waiting for the right time, the right words, the right mood. When Lily told me about the door, she did not know about Patricia. She was telling me what she was shown, not what she thought I needed to hear. She was 9 years old, describing a vision of estranged families and an open door with a closing date. And I sat there on the couch next to my daughter and understood that she was delivering a message directly into my specific life. The door is still open, but it will not stay open. Lily said the third thing she was shown, and I want you to receive this, was what the families who came through 2026 together looked like afterward. She said they had something inside them. She called it a seal. She said she couldn't explain what that meant exactly, only that it looked like light on the inside of the house, even when it was dark outside. She said the families who turned toward each other before the pressure came had something in them that could not be taken. She said it looked like it had been put there on purpose, a permanent something that scarcity and fear and whatever external weight 2026 carries could not reach. She came back from that. She came back from 14 minutes of that, placed back into her 9-year-old body on a gurney in Nashville, Tennessee. And the first thing she said when she opened her eyes, the nurses documented it, I have the notes, was, he said to remember the families. He said to remember the families, not countries, not governments, not institutions, families. The people sitting in the same house not talking to each other. The people who used to be close and told themselves they had time to fix it. The parents watching their adult children drift and thinking someone else would bridge the gap. The grandparents eating alone. I need you to stop for a moment. I am serious. Stop whatever you are doing in the background. Stop the mental list of things you need to do after this is over. I need you to hear what I am about to say, not as a nice sentiment and not as religious content you will scroll past. My daughter was clinically dead for 14 minutes. She came back without neurological deficit, without the psychological profile of trauma, without the behavioral pattern of confabulation. She came back consistent, the same details, the same order, the same images across more than a year of telling. She came back, and the first thing she asked me, 4 days after she was discharged, was whether I had told you yet. She asked me that question 8 times over 8 months, 8 times, and each time I said no. And each time she looked at me with patience that no 10-year-old should have and said, "Okay, Mama, when you're ready." The 8th time she said something different. She said, "He's waiting, Mama." I am not a woman who uses language like that. I am a nurse. I am a woman who trusts charts and readings and verifiable outcomes. And I sat in my kitchen when my daughter said that, and I understood that I had been the coward in this story, not Lily. Lily has been unafraid of this testimony from the moment she woke up. The fear has been mine. This is me putting the fear down. What Lily carried back from 14 minutes on the other side is not a prediction of doom. It is a diagnosis. The diagnosis is disconnection. The prescription is not complicated. It is not expensive. It does not require special equipment or preparation. The prescription is turn toward the people in your life before 2026 puts pressure on the space between you and asks you to hold something you are not strong enough to hold alone. That is the complete warning. Lily said it was complete. She said there was nothing left out, nothing held back. He gave her everything she was supposed to carry, and she has been trying to get me to deliver it ever since. Here is what I am asking you to do. Not in some vague future, this week, before the week is out. Think of one person in your family you have let distance grow between you and. One person. A child you don't call enough. A parent you visit less than you should. A sibling you told yourself you'd reach out to when things were less busy. A spouse you have been in the same house with for months without really being with them. Lily said the door is still open, but she was shown that it closes. She did not know exactly when. She knew it was coming. She knows it is closer than it feels from here. You do not need to have a dramatic conversation. You do not need to resolve years of distance in one phone call. You need to make the call. Today. This week. You need to let the person in the other end hear your voice and know that you called because you wanted to, and not because something terrible had already happened. That is the appointment Lily came back to make for you. A call you have been putting off. A sentence you have been waiting to say. An admission you know needs to happen. She was shown the door. She was told to tell the families while it was still open. I am the person she chose to tell it through. And you are the person who found this video today. I do not believe that is an accident. If this testimony reached you, if even one part of what Lily was shown landed somewhere real in your life, I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel. Not because of numbers, because there are more accounts like mine being carried by people who are afraid to say them out loud. Your presence here is what makes this channel a place those accounts can arrive. You being here is part of why they get said. And in the comments, I want to ask you something specific. What is the name of the person you have been putting off calling? You don't need to tell me the whole story, just the name or just the relationship. A sister, a son, a father you haven't spoken to since the argument you've both been too proud to address. Write it down. Sometimes putting it outside yourself, making it exist somewhere other than the back of your mind where you've been keeping it, is what makes you actually do it. Write it, and then close the laptop and make the call. My daughter came back different. That is the truest thing I can say about all of this. She came back from 14 minutes of clinical death, carrying something that did not belong to a 9-year-old, and she has been trying to give it to you since the moment she woke up. She is 10 years old now. She still asks me if I've told people yet. She is going to ask me again when I walk back into the kitchen tonight. I am going to be able to tell her yes. Whatever is coming in 2026, and I believe my daughter, I believe it is coming. The people who go through it together will be the people who chose to turn toward each other before it arrived. Not after, before. The door is still open. I hope you use it.